It's the Wilk Report. I'm Michael Wilk coming to you from Cleveland. And we've got a bit of news for you today. We've got a couple of items. We've got Venom at the box office. Not doing too well despite the gross domestic and foreign totals. Box Office Mojo reports that the total worldwide in its third weekend is $461,825,095. Now, we should keep in mind that the second week, Venom took what is now estimated to be a 57.1% drop from its opening weekend. And this weekend, it's taken another 48.3% drop. So we're looking at a pattern here. So we've got opening weekend, $80,255,756. That's the weekend gross. Then its second weekend, October 12th through the 14th, the take was $35,006,107. And the estimated gross for this weekend, because it's still Sunday right now, we're looking at $18,105,000. That's a rough estimate because the final totals aren't in yet. So this might actually change. But, again, this is not good because even though the production budget was $100 million, but you also have to factor in the cost of marketing and merchandise, and foreign movie theaters tend to take a bigger cut than domestic movie theaters. So the movie will probably end up making its money back, but probably not much of a profit, certainly not enough to justify a sequel, much less a franchise, because there's just no reason for Sony to plop down that kind of money unless people want to be stubborn. So, yeah, this is looking pretty bad for Sony. They had a strong opening weekend, shocked the heck out of me and Larry and a couple of others. But so far it looks like Venom, despite having a strong opening weekend, is really not doing as well with audiences as Sony would have liked. So I'll keep you updated on this. In the meantime, we've got The Conners killed Roseanne, and here's a reaction so far, and this is as of October 17th. The verdict on ABC's Roseanne spinoff The Conners, basically summarizing, it goes on how Roseanne got herself fired and how the new show was canceled, but the cast, produced in part by Sarah Gilbert, managed to bring back The Conners as a spin-off, kind of like what happened when Valerie Harper left her own show and they replaced her with Sally Duncan as a sister and kept the show going. So, critical response. Review: The Conners is a bittersweet pill. That's per the New York Times. And the opening quote is, "It took the example of the real-life bar to point out that the schisms in America right now aren't just about politics," writes Times James Poniewozik, adding, "They're also about decency and empathy and dehumanization." He also adds, "These are moral lines that, once someone like Barr crosses them, you can't simply agree to disagree about. You have to make a choice. ABC did, and in the process, it freed the Conners to be themselves." Vulture says The Conners doesn't need Roseanne. The Conners even feels closer in tone and intent to the original Roseanne, which is an astonishing thing to pull off with Roseanne herself no longer in the picture, writes Jen Chaney. She adds that the specter of Donald Trump is largely absent in the spinoff, which removes a burden that forced the new Roseanne's characters to behave in some ways that didn't match up with what we knew about them based on the original Roseanne. And the Croning Esquire says The Conners is what the Roseanne reboot should have been all along. Justin Kirkland was one of several critics to highlight Lacey Gorins' performance as the older sister Becky, and what is maybe the most surprising twist, Becky emerged as the episode's coming to the MVP. So critics seem to like The Conners without Roseanne, but it remains to be seen if the audiences will go for it. So we'll certainly keep updated on this because I want to see where this is going. And then Oscar Isaacs reveals something that puts even more doubt on episode 9. Headline from comingsoon.net says Oscar Isaac says more improv allowed on looser episode 9 set. In a move that may raise some eyebrows in the Star Wars community, Oscar Isaac has revealed in a recent interview with IndieWire that Jar Jar Abrams has allowed a lot more improvisation on the Star Wars episode 9 set. The way they've been shooting it right now is looser than it's been for the last 2 times, said Isaac, who previously played daring pilot Poe Dameron in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, as well as on the current Disney XD cartoon series Star Wars Resistance. It does feel like a relief to get on set and feel like, oh, we can try things. It's a testament to Jar Jar coming back and feeling confident. There's less pressure for it to be right. We just want to make a good movie and have a really good time while doing it. His quote might strike some as slightly ironic considering the behind-the-scenes turmoil that went on during the filming of Solo. Fans will recall that original directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller were politely shown the door, well, not so politely, and replaced by Ron Howard due to their propensity for improv, something that didn't sit well with writers Lawrence and Jonathan Kasdan and producer Kathleen Kennedy. Now, yeah, so, stuff like this comes out, it just fills me with more doubt because what we're seeing right now is, basically Star Wars, the last spark is sputtering and going out, and leaks like this from the set do not fill me with confidence. I've got no plans to go see the movie. I'm done with it. I'll probably talk about it with people who have seen it, but I have no interest. And and that's part of the problem is that fans have lost interest in Star Wars. People were too put off by the last couple of movies. The Last Jedi really kind of exposed the deep flaws that were in The Force Awakens, but The Last Jedi went out of its way to insult audiences, and Solo pretty much alienated people even further. This whole notion of improv, which is a large reason why Phil Lord and Chris Miller were removed from Solo in the first place. Again, this is not good. And speaking of not good, SlashFilm.com reports Star Trek TV shows will have distinct tones be spread out to avoid franchise fatigue. CBS All Access plans to boldly expand its roster of Star Trek TV shows, but not too quickly. A new report says that the network doesn't want to make the mistake of having fans become oversaturated with new Star Trek content, so instead of having a new season of a Star Trek show airing year-round, the various series will be spread out a little to help to keep interest high. Plus, each of the new shows is intended to have its own tonal vision, which will draw distinct lines around the types of Trek series All Access will produce. Read more about the network's plans below. Okay, so yeah, it seems like they're going the opposite direction, basically the opposite extreme from what Disney is doing. Executive producer Alex Klutzman, who is showrunning Discovery and previously co-wrote screenplays for Jar Jar Abrams' Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, is developing new series, miniseries, and other content opportunities, including animation. One of those projects is called Star Trek Short Treks. Well, unfortunately, those are not doing too well with audiences. So, Klutzman, you're an idiot. But it looks like CBS is trying to avoid doing what Disney did, which was to kind of oversaturate the market with Star Wars content. And you know what? There is a legitimate reason to say, okay, yeah, let's not oversaturate. But at the same time, you have to understand during the 1990s, there were at least 2 Star Trek shows going on at any one time. So you had The Next Generation, then Deep Space Nine came along and aired at basically concurrently with The Next Generation for the last season or 2 of the former show. And then Next Generation went off the air, Deep Space Nine was still on, Voyager was created, and that ran about concurrently with Deep Space Nine. So really, that doesn't really fly because Star Trek and Star Wars are 2 entirely different things, and Disney had other reasons for seeing Star Wars fail, namely hiring bad directors, bad writers, and going out of their way to alienate fans. And that's also another reason why CBS is basically tanking. Excuse me, I've got a cold, so please bear with me. But it's basically why Discovery is likely not to get a full second season, because what you have to understand is, you've got such a mess as this, and then CBS is not revealing the full numbers for All Access. And there are already reports, and I'll cover this a little bit later, but there are reports that STD is already so over budget for season 2 that they don't have enough money to finish it. Not without some major influx of capital. So, this is not good. We're seeing some stuff happening that really just does not fill me again with any confidence. It's it's basically another nail in the coffin, and also another thing that CBS has done, which has also alienated gamers, is inserting Discovery into Star Trek Online. And from what I've been here, because I've got a lifetime subscription there from a few years ago, and pretty much everyone I've spoken to within the Star Trek Online community, just they're not happy with this. They don't like it. They don't see why. They don't even consider it canon. Of course, Star Trek Online is kind of semi-canon, maybe not really canon, but it's but it does incorporate a lot of canon. But what's happening is that CBS kind of forced the gamers to... Oh, and guess what? Star Trek Online could itself find itself in legal trouble because CBS is using the tardigrade and the spore drive from STD inside Star Trek Online. And as we've reported before, there's a lawsuit going on against CBS with regard to the tardigrade and the spore drive, because those apparently were ripped off from another video game called Tardigrades. So yeah, this is not good. So CBS is making mistakes all its own that's likely going to kill not only STD, but might seriously cripple Star Trek Online. So I will be doing a show on that later on this week, depending on how I'm feeling. But it's kind of moving on because we've got Halloween to review. I'm just kind of getting into some of the box office. Box Office Mojo reports that Halloween has a domestic total estimated for opening weekend, $77,501,000, and a foreign of $14,300,000 for a worldwide total estimated at this time of about $91,801,000. And that's on a production budget of $10 million, and if you figure marketing and merchandising, at least another $10 million. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at a movie that's in its opening weekend has already more than made its money back. So yeah, if Blumhouse was hoping to make more Halloween sequels and kind of take over from Dimension, I think they're in good hands, because right now it's looking pretty good. So let's kind of do some of the reviews. Observer.com, Jamie Lee Curtis is out of her damn mind in the new Halloween. Horror movie fans are a special audience subgenre. They'll travel to drive-ins in the middle of the Mojave for a good thrill. They're especially loyal to the Halloween franchise that's been creating goosebumps, heart palpitations, and heebie-jeebies for 40 years. Well, some yeah, some no. That's actually not quite right. But yeah, it looks like... yes, but the review, unfortunately, has been kind of mixed. The writer, let's see, who wrote this? Rex Reed. Writes, unfortunately, this one doesn't deliver the goods with any new ideas or fresh suspense. It just lays there like leftover pumpkin. Uh, I'm not so sure because the movie, well, just to kind of explain kind of some of the mixed reviews, Daily Dead says that the new Halloween is an excellent companion piece to John Carpenter's original. So let's kind of read from here. So a gut reaction from many fans would be that the main ingredient of a successful Halloween movie is Michael Myers, but Laurie Strode and Dr. Loomis are just as important. Looking at their options, Blumhouse could have rebooted and or recast, started fresh with new characters, or retconned with their new movie. But when you know that Jamie Lee Curtis is interested in returning as Laurie Strode, the answer for which direction to go is clear. The movie could have easily taken the Jurassic World route, giving us a glorified reboot, but the new Halloween is able to effectively mix old and new here with impressive results. While there are definitely familiar story beats at times, director David Gordon Green also cleverly subverts expectations, knowing that the movie's target audience has been watching the original Halloween and other slasher films for decades. Similarly, kills are a mix of old and new, with some very effective off-screen kills mixed with brutal on-screen deaths that are up there with what we've seen in Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. So, and basically, they said the success or failure rested on Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, and I'm going to have to agree with this because, looking at the movie, it definitely appealed to both fans of the original film, and I think newer audience also have gotten a big kick out of it. And of course, the proof is definitely in the box office. I mean, with Venom, like I said, Larry and I, when we did our review last time, we were pleasantly surprised. Because Venom did have a strong opening weekend. We weren't so sure that it was going to do all that well, but the money spent on Venom, you have to keep that in mind. Is it and this is just production budget alone was at least 10 times that of Halloween. So if you're looking from a purely financial perspective, Venom, even though it's made its money back, probably is not going to turn much of a profit, at least not enough of one to really justify a franchise. But Halloween, because it's a horror film and horror film budgets tend to be much, much lower, the money it's raked in just over the weekend has not only gotten its money back, in terms of both the production budget and the marketing and merchandise, but it's probably, and because it's Halloween month, it's another week or so. I mean, this movie's going to be a definite box office success. Now, even if you don't like it, the numbers don't lie. Fans are flocking to it, and even if there's a significant drop going into next weekend, the movie has already more than made its money back. So the proof is in the box office. So we'll keep you updated. I'm also watching episode 3 of Goblin Slayer. I'll keep you informed on that. If you like what you've heard and you want to hear more, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we upload new content. Also, please go over to our Patreon and support our channel by becoming a subscriber. Your money would not only help keep the lights on, but it'll also go to help improve the quality of the podcast. So feel free to head over and hit the link. This is Michael Wilk with a very bad cold, saying take care, good night, stay warm, and stay healthy.